We want to bring in the former acting U.S. Solicitor General of the United States, Neil Katyal, part of our special coverage, here with Rachel, Nicole, Chris, and Andrew. Neil, May 30th, 2024, Donald J. Trump convicted on 34 felony counts. What does this verdict mean?
So, Ari, I think about it in 3 words: 34 for 45. 34 counts convicted for the 45th former president of the United States. It's never happened before in our history. And these are felony counts. These aren't slaps on the wrist. They're not misdemeanors. These are not minor things. As the prosecutor Steinglass said to the jury in his closing, Donald Trump may have been elected president because of these crimes, because of his hiding of these campaign contributions. And, you know, Rachel has talked eloquently about the political implications. I don't understand that. I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you what this means about the rule of law. I mean, my parents came here to this country precisely because of jury verdicts like this, because of the idea that no one is above the law, that a jury of one's peers can hold someone to account no matter who you are. And this jury has now decided that. And Ari, I think the most important point is they decided that against, and Trump was guilty, against the most difficult standard for the prosecution to show in all of American law. They had to show it beyond a reasonable doubt. They had to win all 12 jurors. One juror saying Trump didn't do it was enough for him not to be convicted. I know how hard that is. I did that in the George Floyd murder with my team. You know, that's a scary standard, you know, to do. But here it was met as it was in the Floyd case. And, you know, that's such a tough standard, Ari. It's like, you know, it's kind of like failing kindergarten. If you're a jury facing a jury trial, you got to kind of try to fail a jury trial if you're a criminal defendant. You got everything going for you. And yet Trump managed to do that. Yeah. And I think the last thing I just say is Chris Hayes' point about the faith in the system is right. I mean, that, you know, I think this shows that the system works, but I suspect Trump's next move will be, as it always is, to denigrate the system, to attack the institutions, to attack the prosecution, to attack the jury system. And so don't pop our champagne corks yet, because Trump's going to run against this system. Mm-hmm. And our job as lawyers is to make sure that people understand how that system works and how justice was done today.
Neil Katyal weighing in here for the first time, and we appreciate you making time to do that. Thank you. We're back with our full panel. Neil mentioned what Chris had said, and as well, Nicole, you think about we're moments away from Alvin Bragg, the DA who brought this case. It was going to be controversial, probably either way. I would note, if his name is not super familiar, if you're watching and can't even conjure exactly what he looks like, that is because he has followed the Jack Smith playbook and the Bob Mueller playbook before that. DA Bragg spoke once regarding this case. It was when they announced the prosecution, and it was very spare. So spare, I'll remind people, he was criticized at the time for not elaborating further about the theory, about the campaign aspects, things that we then later learned about in detail in court, where he let his team, the assistant DAs, do the talking. And so we're scheduled to hear from him moments away. They released one tweet, which you read earlier, where they said guilty on all counts. Very businesslike. But this will be the first time we hear from this DA who's let the evidence and his team do the talking. I
mean, he's been underestimated. You've interviewed him. I think you've interviewed him as well. And to talk to him, he wants to talk to you about other things. He's not, you know, Donald Trump relies on and projects onto everyone else what is inside of him. And what's inside of him is a possessed and obsessed partisan actor. Alvin Bragg just doesn't fit the mold. I mean, he did this because the facts and the law supported this. Again, not in a timeline that a lot of his supporters and detractors would have liked. I think some people would have liked to have seen the case that Pomerantz had investigated go to trial much sooner than Alvin Bragg brought it. But he was convinced. I think there was some reverse engineering, and I say that not as a lawyer, of the Michael Cohen account. There seemed to be meticulous corroboration if you read every transcript and if you looked at every witness. And I think that it's a little more clear, and we'll hear from him himself, that maybe that was what he was doing.
Yeah. I mean, the Alvin Bragg achievement here, Andrew, before we got the the jury's verdict, you were saying if there is one guilty verdict among these 34 counts, that is a victory for the prosecution. That counts as a conviction, and that is what the prosecution is aiming for. When it came in as all 34, that's obviously something more than a victory for the prosecution. It's a vindication of their approach. And their approach here was methodical. Obviously, we saw what the defense's approach was, which was Michael Cohen is a bad man. We saw what the prosecution's handling was of that criticism, which was everything that Michael Cohen is going to tell you is as a narrator of the evidence, essentially. But we're also going to show you the evidence. They had smoking gun documentation of the crimes that they needed to prove.
So what people are going to hear from Alvin Bragg, and it's sort of good background from my friends in law enforcement who have known him for years as a federal prosecutor, as a state prosecutor. The word on Alvin Bragg is he is the real deal.
Yeah.
Not meaning that he's Torquemada and he's like, I'm going to go out hammer and tongs on everyone, meaning he is a professional who is principled. And that when he said the case wasn't ready, it was because the case wasn't ready. And when he decided to bring the case, it was because he decided the case was ready. In other words, it's like what you see is what you get. There's no backstory. It is like this was a guy who's known as the real deal. And then he handled himself that way. Without casting any aspersions on any other way anyone else acts, he did this sort of classic model of I'm going to speak in court. And this verdict is what he's speaking out through. And now is the time for him to say something about his team. And the one thing everyone saw that when you were in court was this was the A-team.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a stupendous presentation.
So can we newsify it a little bit? Do you expect him to take questions? Do you think he'll speak to sentencing on what they're requesting or make any news tonight like that?
I don't think he'll talk about sentencing. I think that they're going to think long and hard about what to do. I do expect that, I mean, not to tout myself on the back, but I do think the things that I said that are factors are going to be brought up to the court. It is, by the way, it's an E felony, so it is not the most serious felony under state law, but it is hard to think of an E felony that is more serious in terms of the underlying facts. And that is something that Judge Merchan is so experienced, has been a judge for so long, that cannot escape him.
Can I jump in here just for a second? For anybody who might just be joining us, you just skipped over sort of an important point that we discussed there earlier, and I want to make sure we resurface that. The next thing that's going to happen here in court is that there's going to be, both sides are going to submit their advice to the judge, essentially their arguments to the judge as to what the sentencing should be. The sentencing is scheduled for July 11th at 10 a.m. You mentioned earlier, Andrew, that one of the things Judge Merchan might reasonably consider when he is making a decision on sentence is the fact that Trump multiply violated the gag order in this case. Right. And that is allowed to influence the judge's perception in terms of what kind of sentence is warranted here. My question is the gag order still in effect? Does the gag order stay in effect until sentencing, or is it now over because the trial itself is over?
So that's interesting because, one of the things that it focuses on is witnesses and jurors.
And jurors, right.
So I think with respect to jurors, it'll be interesting to see whether the judge says something and clarifies, because that is going to be needed going forward.
Protecting the jurors.
Absolutely. And also, just to be fair, with witnesses, it is, as the judge said, he is concerned not just about the individual person right in front of him, but about the next person. And so if you are concerned about witnesses writ large and jurors writ large, you want to make sure that they are protected and they don't feel secure. I mean, it is, by the way, it is still surreal that we are having this question about somebody who is president of the United States. Yeah. This is the kind of conversation.
Mob talk.
Yes, exactly.
Having done organized crime cases, you do not, this is beyond mob talk.
Yeah. They're rational actors, right?
Exactly. This is something you worry about to a certain extent. That is why there's the witness protection program. You would not worry about it at this point,
and but you are. More than having done, you were Eastern District. You guys do more mafia cases than most any district in the country.
True.
So as we await here, we're 90 seconds out from when DA Bragg may speak, or maybe a little delayed. Andrew was talking to Rachel about what could happen in this July sentencing hearing, and you mentioned witnesses. We also have fresh reporting out of the courtroom today. The last thing that happened after the jury was polled and after the judge made his closing remarks, and that's really completing it, was the defense, having seen their defendant convicted on all 34 counts, made one final push requesting an acquittal motion, and they based that on attacking Michael Cohen, who proved to be a good enough witness. Not a perfect witness, but clearly good enough. I mentioned we're going to hear from D.A. Bragg. We're also scheduled here. It's news, but will be interesting to hear from Michael Cohen tonight on MSNBC, the first place I believe he'll be speaking since the verdict. But Andrew, can you speak on that and how they are still going to launch this appeal strategy going at Cohen, while the sentencing could be harsher if they view his other attacks on witnesses as part of aggravating factors?
Well, it'll be interesting. I think the timing of the sentencing and the appeal is going to be very much what I would say, Nicole, as I say, in your lane. It'll be in the politics lane in terms of what they think may happen on appeal and whether they think that is something that will benefit them. If they think that it'll be useful to have an appellate brief in before the election so that they can get some lackeys to say, oh, yes, this is there's tons of legal error here, they will do that. But for the moment, there will be a sentencing. There is no question that the judge is going to, no matter what sentence it is. I have to say this is in front of a judge, and I felt this way when I went to a sentencing that Amy Berman Jackson, who had the Manafort case and the Rick Gates case, where I had my own view as to what I thought should happen. And sometimes you're in front of a judge that you respect so much and think is so thoughtful that you really think whatever he does is actually going to be fair.
Yeah.
It may not be exactly what you would do, but this is one where we have seen a judge who has just done an incredible job getting the case to trial. Not being able to put this person, having to put the person in jail, trying to make sure that there was a fair process.